Okay, back again. This is going to be a final walkthrough from start to finish. We're going to take one specimen. We're going to be using some bounce light, the 100mm lens. We're going to do a short stack to walk you through the process of turning on the system, mounting a lens, getting your lights set up, going through the shot, and all the software. We've gone through all the software in detail in previous videos, but this is just a complete start to finish walkthrough. All right, let's get started. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to go around here and I'm going to turn on this plug strip, which will activate the controller, the camera, the remote, and the monitor. Then I'm going to turn on the computer. Now the reason we turn on the monitor first is obviously so that we can see it when the computer boots. Otherwise it's a pretty lonely world out there with nothing to see. So when this thing boots, the monitor is going to change the gain on the video, so it's going to appear much darker in this room. I do like to shoot in a dimly lit room anyway. Now, I have my camera off, and I'll bring it down here a little bit so you can see it. My camera is off, my remote is off. I'm going to pick a specimen. Now, the specimen that I've got my eye on here is this really gnarly beetle, and it's got spread wings, it's got its carapace open, it's got a really detailed face and head, lots of texture. It's got nice little hairs around its feet. It's really cool. So we're going to put that on the raised mounted stage here on a gray background. So that's my choice. I'll be shooting with a 100mm lens at its lowest magnification, which is 1:5, and that's about it. So what I'm going to do first, before I put my specimen on the tray, and I can tell you this from experience, you always want to mount your lens and everything after the specimen is there. You put a specimen, especially a type specimen, down there, you put your lens on, you go to pull your lens cap off, it falls down and creams your specimen. It's a bad thing. So get all your lenses out of the way before you do anything. I want to look briefly about the lenses. All of your lenses that I've given you have a B+W professional glass filter on the front. These are German-made filters, and everybody knows the Germans are very precise. And so these are the best filters you can buy in the world. So it's a $1,000 lens, so why not use the best filter you can buy? The filters are about 60 bucks. A cheap filter is about 10. The difference is night and day. Here's why I use filters in the lab. Some purists say, oh, never put a filter on such an expensive lens because you're occluding, you know, you're defeating the purpose. You're adding more glass on the front of the lens. Okay. In a laboratory environment where you've got glycerol, you've got ethanol, you've got wax, you've got all this other stuff, a fingerprint on the lens is a heartbreak. Good luck getting it pristine back to factory. You have a cover on it. Worst case scenario, you can throw the cover out if you can't clean it and replace it. But there's an old saying that a dirty lens will outperform a poorly cleaned one every time, and I can absolutely stand by that one. So I'm going to go ahead and put my lens on. I always keep my front cap on my lens. It gives me a support. I'll remove the body cap. Red dot facing me. I remove the body cap on the camera. Red dot there goes up into the camera. A quarter turn to the right, clockwise, and that's it. Now I'm going to remove my lens cap and put everything on the side. So my process is basically lens on, caps off, specimen in every time. So you get into a kind of a protocol. Now I'm going to take my specimen out of the box. You get my box out of there so it doesn't get destroyed. And now remember, this pin mount, this pole or post, is filled with wax. So it's a pretty easy ordeal just to stick the specimen in there. Now what I wanted to do is make the wings normal with the base, as they say, with this base. And then as I look at it, I want to make sure that the ventral surface of this specimen is also parallel. So this way it's straight this way, and it's straight this way. And that's important in 2 points. One, you'll get fewer images to a complete stack because your specimen is not tilted. But more importantly, you get the proper perspective. When you're shooting a dorsal habitus, and if your specimen is tilted, it's all going to be in focus, but the specimen will actually appear shorter than it is in real life if you were to straighten it out. So there you have it. That's it. It's underneath the lens now. Now I can turn on my camera, and I will turn on my flash remote control. And I'm going to mute the monitor because I don't need to hear Windows chiming in every time it finds a device. One thing I've done to make my life a little easier, I've got two mice on this. I've got the standard corded SteelSeries mouse over there, which is really great for editing and tight, precise control. I've got my own Logitech Anywhere mouse over here that's wireless, and I plugged in the wireless dongle on our USB hub in front of the monitor so I can go anywhere in the room with this and it works. So this way I can be up here and I can control live view and everything while I'm at my specimen. When I'm doing my editing and my final shots, I'm over there at the control center doing everything with that mouse and this keyboard. So two mice is not a bad idea. First thing I'm going to do is start some software. So I will go ahead and start the Passport software so I can control the lift. Let me get into some basic do's and don'ts on this. When you first start, make sure that you can use your up and down button on your Passport software to move this rail. I like to start with the rail, the camera in the center of the rail. That gives me the most possible distance top and bottom. A lot of times after using this thing, it ends up at the bottom or at the top. And when you go start to do your stack, maybe you want to focus down on something and you realize, oh, you hit your rail on the bottom, so now you have to move the copy stand up. Start it in the middle. That's about it. The next thing we're going to do is we've got our mag set. We're going to go into the Passport software and we're going to select our lens. That's the Canon 100mm. Our f-stop is 5.6 and our magnification we select is going to be 1:5. That's it. So now it's calibrated so it knows what the depth of field is at this mag with this lens, this f-stop. We can do a stack. Let's start capture one. And later, after we get this thing established and we're ready to run a stack, I'll walk over to the screen and I'll do a record off of the screen so it's clear and you can see what we've got. So right now there's, we need a specimen. Actually, this is from a previous session, playing around. Let me get rid of these guys. All right, we're going to go ahead and hit live view. And there's kind of our specimen. It's a big blur in the middle of the page. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my flash heads. Okay. My modeling lights are now on. I'll put these things up to the roof. I'm just going to level them out. That's it. Now I'm going to raise the copy stand up to where my specimen is somewhat in focus. Okay, I'm going to double click on the pronotum here. Actually, I'm going to move it center of my field of view. And I'll double click on the pronotum. Now, the reason I'm focusing on this part is because it is about midway between what I perceive as the top and bottom of this specimen. So I've got the top of this carapace over here and I've got the rear toe down here on the back, and in between, right about in the middle, is that pronotum. So the depth of field of your lens is not just in front of your point of focus, it's also behind your point of focus. So that's why I look for the middle. That being said, let's take a shot and see what we get as far as exposure goes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to make sure my copy stand is locked in. Good. I'm going to go to mode and I've selected TTL. Now, channel 1, because we only have 2 sets of heads and we had to pick a channel, so it's channel 1. And they're both on bank A, so they're both being controlled the same with the modeling lamps and the same with the flash. So if we set the flash to TTL, they're both TTL. If we set the flash power to 5, they're both going to be 5. We're not going to be doing A and B independently for this operation because we're doing this a bounce light. I want a uniform big light, so no reason to split them up. Also, I will tell you that the way the Canon camera works on this, with the TTL and these flashes with the Canon camera, it has a tendency to be on the underexposed side. I have this biased 2 stops and it's just about right, but the Canon picks up a lot of that gray background, and it'll pick up, if you put a black background on there, it'll blow the specimen out because again it's trying to expose that black background correctly. Even though it's on a spot meter, it's still picking up some of that background because we're so far back. Let's take a test shot and see what we have. Okay, there we go. It's pretty good, but I think we can do a little bit better. Let's see what we are. I'm going to switch over to manual mode now. There's manual. And I'm going to kick it up a little bit. Let's see what we had on here. Yeah, we had 6.5 in TTL. So I am now going to bring it up to 7 and take a shot, see what we get. Okay, that's a little bit brighter. Wow, I like that. That's really nice. So I'll take it. So what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead, and you can see on the histogram how it jumps a bit. Quite nice, actually. All right, so now we're going to have to find the top and the bottom. So to do this, and I'll try and make this as brief as possible, there's a couple things you have to be aware of. The StackShot controller the StackShot reel has axial drift in that the motor torques it, and so what happens is, and this is, I'm going to over-exaggerate it with this prop here, but what happens is the motor is torquing and the 2 rails are not absolutely precise. They're bushings, not bearings. They do a wonderful job for what we need it to do, but I need to explain the mechanics of this so that you can understand the process. As that motor turns, there's almost an imperceptible shift of the rail head because of the torque. So if you're going down, the thing might kick this way a little bit, and as you're going down, now when you're going to go back up the other direction, it torques this way. So you're going to end up with a slight twist left to right. So to get around that, I'll show you how we do that. The other thing is that there is a little bit of slop in the lead screw, back drive, so that when the lead screw is spinning and the nut's driving everything down, when you go to reverse direction, the lead screw almost has to go 1/5 of a turn before it engages the nut and sends it back up. So you end up with the motor spinning but nothing moving, and all of a sudden it takes off. So that's because these do not have anti-backlash lead screw nuts on them. They just don't do it. Again, this is designed for macro, not micro necessarily. It does a great job even in low mag micro, so no complaints there. But we're just going to I want you to understand mechanics so that we know the workaround for it. And this is common. It's all over the web. You can look at all the information on it. But there's a workaround. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go down to our bottom first, and we are going to drive it down to the bottom. We are going to focus on our lowest point, and then we are going to drive it back to the top. And we were going to go past our top point, and then we were going to come back down onto our top point, and that's where we're going to hit the start. This way we're not shifting back and forth in our drive. We hit the top, and then we just go down right to the bottom. So it's a very smooth travel. There's no back slot in the thread, and there's no axial torquing involved. It's gone. It's out of the picture. So that's how we're doing it. Live view. So I go on to live view. I want to pick my lowest point. Now if I take my little hand, we've talked about this in Capture One, I double click it, I go onto my point of interest, and I'm going to take this and drive it down. And say, okay, and I'm going to say stop here. So that's my lowest point. Got that? That's easy, right? So now there's two ways you can get to the top point. I know where the top point is. I know it's up here by looking at it. I can either take my little corner here and drag it, or I could just zoom out if I'm not sure where it is and then double click on my point of interest again. So whatever works for you. So now I'm going to go up and I'll point out where I think my top point is, and then we're going to go beyond it. Okay, there's my top point right there. Now I'm going to go beyond it and catch it on the way back. Okay, so now I'm going to go down, and that's where I'm going to say start here. And that's going to give me 8 steps. 8 steps is not 8 slices, or 8 shots. 8 steps is 9 shots, because what it does is it takes a shot and then it moves, and then it takes another shot and then it moves. So your first shot, the rail does not have to move, it's already there. So now we're set. So there's our top and bottom. We've done our exposure. So I'm going to close out live view. Very important. If live view is open while you're trying to do your stack, the camera will fire and it will move, but the flashes won't go off. And that's a thing with Canon. You can't get around that. You can do one shot with live view open, you know, while you're doing your preview stuff, but when you're doing your stack, you may not. So make sure live view is off. If you have that problem, you'll see down here on this window, and I'll show you this in Capture One when we do this recording on the screen. It's easier to see. So that's about it. We're ready to go. So I'm going to walk you over to the screen, and we're going to record that. I don't think I missed anything. The lights are positioned and how we want them, and they're set for their amplitude. Everything's good. So I'll take it on over here. Okay, so here we are in Capture One. Here's our first shot, and here's our second shot. So first one was slightly underexposed, second one is where we want it. I take my white balance from my second shot, anywhere in the background, I click on it, and now we're white balanced. I remove this thumbnail with the normal delete key on the right hand side of the keyboard. By doing that, it puts it into a trash bin within Capture One, but it still retains the white balance settings so that all my successive images will have that exact white balance setting on it. That's important. If I use the quick function keys that I put on the left hand side of the keyboard for the MX, the macro keys, the delete and the delete all buttons there delete the file from disk. So it is just like if you were hitting Alt Delete, and it will say, do you want to delete from disk, and you hit enter. So we don't want to have to clean a bunch of junk out of the garbage bin, so we just hit I'm using my MX9 key on this one, and it's gone. Now we're ready to do a stack. So I'm just going to verify our settings. We've got the 100mm macro. We've set it at f5.6. Our mag is 1 to 5. And there you have it. The only thing I'm going to do is I am going to change our dwell from 3 seconds to 1 second, because our flash is recycling so quickly. There's no reason to wait 3 seconds between slices on this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and run it. So now I just hit start. There's my first shot. Now my rail moved. Now my second shot, and the rail's moving. This will take a total of 9 images, 8 moves. Very simple. One of the things that's pretty remarkable about these monolights is the consistency of their output. It's very, very tight. So here we go. We got all of these. We click on one. We're going to hit MX7, which selects all. MX8, which sets up our export screen. I'm going to make a new subfolder, and I'm going to call it Wings. And I am going to name my file Wings _100mm underscore 1-5. So now I know my lens and my mag. I'm going to hit process. And while this is processing, I'm going to open up Helicon, and I'm going to open up my folder and go to my output folder, and I'm going to go to wings, and I'm going to select all these now because they're all done. Bring it into there, close this out, hit render. Done. Okay, so file, save. I'm going to grab one of these, any one of these files, because they have the lens and the mag on them. I just don't have to retype it that way. And I'm going to go into the last digits, and I'm going to say comp. And I'm going to do an underscore H for Helicon in case I want to do one with Zerine and put it in the same folder. I hit save. Okay, we're done. I'm going to reduce Capture One, and I'm going to launch Photoshop. Move my layers over here, and I'm going to go File, Open, and oh, there's wings, and here's my comp. All right, first thing I want to do is I'm going to save this as basically a copy. So I'm going to say File, Save As, and I'm going to say Comp H with edits. That way, I'm always working on a copy. I'm keeping my original composite as my digital negative. That way, if anything happens when I screw this up, I'll have something to play with later. I'm going to crop it just because I don't need all this dead space. So I'm going to go to Image, Crop. Okay, I'm going to tap it once with my magnifier so I can get a little bit, tap it twice, get a little bit better view. Now I'm going to go in, wow. This thing is absolutely tack sharp, and there's no sharpening done on this yet, and we're not going to. It's fine. What I will do is I want to show you the shadow highlights tool to bring up some of these shadows and in the head. This is a perfect example for this. So I'm going to go in here at 100%, and I'm going to go Image, Analysis, Shadow Highlights. I'm going to turn this down quite a ways. Just a little goes a long way. It's like flying an airplane. Tiny corrections. Okay, that might even be too much. Okay, now I want to control my background. See, my background gets a little light when I do that, so I'm going to reduce that by going to my highlights tool. Not too much. Now my background is more constant, but I'm only changing the top, so there's my specimen. Okay, I like it. So now I'm going to hit Control minus so I can get out of here and see where my measurement scale is going to be. So I'm going to hit F7, and I'm going to go down and pick my measurement scale, 100 millimeter, 1:5. Then I'm going to hit M7, which will bring up my scale bar menu. Why Adobe thinks that 4-point font is a great default, I don't know, but we'll go to an 18-point. We'll do a 10 millimeter. We'll do Arial as our font, and we're going to ask for the scale bar to be in black. If I was shooting on a black background, I would make the scale bar white. Okay, Windows, show me the tools, please. Okay, there. There you go. And let me show you the layers again. When you put a scale bar on your image, it makes it a layer, which is kind of cool. I mean, if you want to save this as layers and you don't want to see the scale bar, you can turn it off and then save it as an image without scale in it. If you want to share it with someone who has Photoshop, and you might want to save it in layers, but if not, and you want to flatten the image, you can go to Layer, Flatten Image, or you can just hit the F12 key like I do, and that'll flatten the image. It's not listed on your keyboard, it's not tagged, but I've programmed F12 as an action to flatten image because I do it all the time. Okay, so that's it. So now that we've already saved it as a copy, just as we're working along, you can just hit save. So it's still our copy with edits, whether we've sharpened it, whether we've changed the shadow highlights, whether we've added a scale bar, whether we've cropped it, it's a change. You can just keep saving it. You're done. So this image is finished. We'll close it out. I'll put this up here for you. Close this out. That's essentially it. So now at this point, I would close out my, I go into Capture One, and I want to get rid of all these files. So I'm going to hit my Delete All button, and it cleans out Capture One. It's just a nice way to keep things tidy when you leave, and then X out of my software here, and that's it. Actually, I'll empty the garbage can, and that's it. The next thing I'll do is I'll walk you through shutting this thing down. All right, so that's a walkthrough of start to finish. Now we're going to finish. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shut my heads off. These have little fans in them, so you get a little white noise in the room. That keeps them cool so you can do a lot of stacks. I'm going to shut this off, the controller. I am going to turn off my camera. I'm going to put my specimen up and out of the way. I'm going to remove my lens. So I got my lens material. The first thing I do is I put the cover on my lens so I'm not touching anything. Camera's off. I rotate and turn. I cover my lens. I put the lens cover on. That's it. We're done. I'm going to shut the computer down and then the plug strip. So the first thing I'll do, I'll grab my mouse. I'll do a normal start shutdown. Let it go through its cycle. And then we'll go ahead and pop the plug strip. That's it. All done. I hope that this system brings you many, many years of wonderful images. Please explore the lighting possibilities. They're virtually endless, and that will have a huge bearing on the type of work that you get out of the system. That's it. Enjoy.